Growing up in Ohio, I always knew my place in the family. I wasn't the golden child. That role belonged to my older brother, Jason. From the moment he was born, my parents treated him like he could do no wrong. Straight A's? Of course. Star quarterback in high school? Naturally. Even when he messed up, and believe me, he did, our parents brushed it off as boys will be boys. Me, I was the opposite. If Jason was the sun, I was the shadow. No matter what I achieved, it was dismissed or criticized. When I got into the school spelling bee finals, my mom said, "It's not like people make a living spelling words." When I landed a part-time job in high school to save up for a used car, my dad scoffed, "If you worked harder in sports like your brother, maybe you wouldn't need to flip burgers." It wasn't just neglect, it was active undermining. At Christmas, Jason would unwrap expensive gifts, new electronics, sports gear, name-brand clothes. I got socks or some secondhand book to keep you out of trouble. The worst part, Jason noticed, and instead of defending me, he leaned into it. He teased me relentlessly, knowing our parents would take his side no matter what. By the time I left for college, on a partial scholarship I earned myself, I felt like a stranger in my own family. They didn't even show up for my graduation. I watched Jason's ceremony years later on Facebook, where my parents were front row, crying like they were watching a coronation. Still, despite the bitterness, I held on to this tiny, naive hope that one day they'd see me for who I was, that one day I'd matter. That illusion shattered the moment I brought my future wife, Emily, into the picture. My family adored her instantly, which at first felt like a small miracle. But deep down, I couldn't shake this dread. If they liked her too much, would she eventually start seeing me through their eyes too? I pushed the thought away, told myself I was being paranoid. After all, Emily loved me for who I was. She knew my scars, knew how hard I worked to climb out of the hole my family had buried me in. With her, I thought I'd finally built something safe, something they couldn't touch. I had no idea how wrong I was. For a few years, life actually felt good. Emily and I got married in a small ceremony in Cleveland. My family showed up, but honestly, I could tell they were more excited to see Emily than me. My mom went on and on about how lucky I was to have landed a woman like her, as if I had tricked Emily into marrying me. I brushed it off because for once, I didn't care about their approval. I cared about the woman standing next to me, promising forever. We built a life together. I worked my way up from an entry-level IT job to a mid-level project manager. The pay wasn't amazing, but it was stable. Emily worked as a nurse, and together we were slowly saving for a house. I thought we were a team. I thought we had each other's backs. Then, Jason came back into the picture. He'd been living out of state, bouncing from one failed startup idea to another, burning through our parents' money like it was Monopoly cash. Eventually, he came back to Ohio to get back on his feet. And of course, my parents welcomed him like a war hero returning home. They threw a barbecue in his honor, bragged about his entrepreneurial spirit, and acted like his string of bankruptcies were just part of some genius long game. Emily and I went to that barbecue. That's when I saw it, the way Jason looked at her. At first, I thought I was imagining it, that old paranoia creeping back in. But over the next few weeks, I noticed the texts, the little inside jokes, the way Emily suddenly started defending him whenever I pointed out his freeloading. The night it all came crashing down is burned into my memory. I'd stayed late at work finishing a project. When I came home, the house was too quiet. I walked into the living room, and there they were, Emily and Jason, together, on my couch. I don't even remember dropping the bag of takeout I was carrying. But I do remember the look on their faces. Jason didn't even look guilty. He looked smug, like he'd been waiting for me to see. Emily started crying, saying it just happened, that she was confused and felt a connection she couldn't deny. I kicked Jason out immediately, but the damage was done. Within weeks, Emily filed for divorce. And somehow, because of course, my parents took his side. They said I was too cold, that I'd driven her into Jason's arms. In the span of 2 months, I lost my marriage, half my savings, and my dignity. I was the punchline at family dinners. Jason got to play the charming rebel who stole his brother's wife, and me? I was back to being the black sheep, humiliated and alone. But here's the thing about being torn apart. You either stay broken or you rebuild stronger. And I wasn't about to let them win. The divorce nearly destroyed me. Emily took more than just money. She took my sense of worth. Our house, our savings, even some of my friends who decided it was too awkward to stay in touch. I'd come home from work to an empty apartment, sit on a mattress on the floor, and wonder how the hell my life had collapsed so fast. The worst part? My family reveled in it. My mom called to tell me, "You should have treated her better. Maybe then she wouldn't have left." My dad said, "Jason's always had a way with people. You can't compete with charisma." And Jason? He paraded Emily around like a trophy. Every photo on social media was them smiling, my parents beaming in the background like they'd gained a daughter instead of losing a son. I'll be honest, there were nights I thought about ending it. Nights where the weight of failure felt too heavy. But something inside me, maybe spite, maybe survival, kept me going. I told myself, if they see me as a failure, I'll make sure my success blinds them. So I threw myself into work. I stopped drinking, stopped wallowing, and started studying everything I could about project management, IT systems, leadership. While Jason was out partying on my parents' dime, I was grinding. I stayed late, volunteered for hard projects, and made sure people noticed. Slowly, they did. 1 year later, I was promoted to senior project manager. The raise wasn't just money, it was validation. For the first time, I was recognized for my skills, not dismissed because of who I wasn't. With the extra income, I moved into a nicer apartment, bought new furniture, even adopted a rescue dog who became my anchor on the darkest days. 2 years later, I landed a position at a major tech firm in Chicago. The offer was life-changing. A 6-figure salary, stock options, and a relocation package that made me feel like I'd finally stepped into the life I'd always deserved. Leaving Ohio was like shedding dead skin. In Chicago, I built a new life. I made friends who valued me for who I was. I traveled, tried new hobbies, even started dating again. For the first time in decades, I felt free. My past was still a scar, but it no longer defined me. And just when I thought I'd buried my family for good, just when I'd finally started living without their voices in my head, they came crawling back. It was a Sunday afternoon in Chicago when I got the first call. Unknown number, Ohio area code. Against my better judgment, I picked up. It was my mother. Her voice, once sharp and judgmental, now sounded small, almost desperate. She didn't even bother with pleasantries. "We need your help," she said. I froze. I hadn't spoken to her in nearly 3 years. She went on to explain that my dad had been laid off, their savings were gone, and Jason's business ventures had crashed again. Apparently, he'd taken out loans in their names. They were drowning in debt. And then came the kicker. Emily had left Jason. Turns out, the man who stole her heart also drained her bank account and cheated on her with one of her coworkers. She took what little money they had left and disappeared. Jason, the golden boy, was living back at home, broke and jobless at 35. "You're successful now," my mom pleaded. "We just need some help getting back on our feet. You can't turn your back on family." I swear, I almost laughed. Family? These were the same people who mocked me when I was at my lowest, who sided with the brother that betrayed me, who told me I wasn't worth anything. And now, because their golden child had finally turned into the failure I always knew he was, suddenly I was the lifeline? I told her I'd think about it and hung up. For days, I wrestled with it. Part of me, the scared little boy who had always wanted their approval, whispered that this was my chance, that if I helped them, maybe I'd finally earn their love. But the man I had become knew better. Their love was conditional. Their respect wasn't real. A week later, I drove back to Ohio, not to hand over money, but to face them. I walked into that same living room where I once caught my wife with my brother. The walls were peeling, the furniture outdated, the energy heavy with failure. Jason sat slumped on the couch, unshaven, looking like a shadow of the smug man I remembered. My parents looked older, weaker, but their eyes still carried that expectation that I'd swoop in and fix their mess. My mom started crying, my dad tried guilt-tripping me, Jason couldn't even look me in the eye. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like the black sheep. I felt powerful. I told them no. When the word no left my mouth, the silence was deafening. My mom blinked at me like I'd just spoken another language. My dad's face turned red, his jaw clenched. Jason finally looked up, eyes bloodshot, waiting for me to cave like I always had. But I didn't. I told them I remembered every insult, every time they dismissed me, every Christmas where I got socks while Jason got praise and presents. I reminded them how they defended Emily and Jason when they destroyed my marriage, how they told me I was the problem, how not one of them called to see if I was alive when I was sleeping on a mattress in an empty apartment, trying to rebuild my life from nothing. My mom started to protest, but I cut her off. You only want me now because I'm useful to you. You don't see me, you never have. You only see what I can give you, and I'm done being your punching bag. Jason muttered something about family sticking together, and I couldn't help but laugh. Family? I said. You stopped being my family the night you betrayed me. You're not my brother. You're just the guy who proved everything I always feared was true. I stood up, looked at each other, and for the first time, I felt nothing. No shame, no longing, just clarity. I built my life without you, and I'll keep building it without you. If you want help, ask Jason. He's your golden child, remember? Then I walked out. Driving back to Chicago, I expected to feel guilt, but instead, I felt lighter than I ever had. Like I had finally closed the book on a story that had haunted me since childhood. Today, my career is thriving. I recently bought a condo overlooking the lake. I'm in a healthy relationship with someone who loves me for me, not for the role my family forced on me. And my dog still greets me at the door like I'm the best person in the world, because to him, I am. As for my family, from what I hear through distant relatives, things only got worse. Jason never got his act together. My parents are still scrambling, blaming everyone but themselves. They tried to smear me as selfish, but the truth speaks louder. I made it, and they didn't. I used to dream of the day they'd finally apologize, that they'd admit they were wrong about me. But now I realize I don't need their apology. I don't need their approval. Because in the end, I won. Sometimes I still get emails or messages from my parents. Always the same theme. Guilt, obligation, you'll regret this when we're gone. I don't reply. I've learned that silence is the strongest answer I can give. Looking back, I don't see myself as the black sheep anymore. I see myself as the survivor, the one who broke free from a toxic cycle and built something real. My success isn't about money or titles. It's about peace. It's about waking up every morning knowing I don't owe my abusers anything. So, am I the asshole for refusing to help my family after everything they did? I don't think so. I think I finally chose myself.